The drivers have to be behind the white line in the station. It's only that one human player that's allowed to cross the line.
It's the human player who's on the same side as the rest of his alliance.
Yeah.
So basically, we got 3 chances to have like a good basketball player.
I guess, yeah. 3 teams, you probably find
Throwing out varsity teams, that's...
Okay, other commentary about the game, I'm predicting it right now. The rugs they have that are specifically allowed to like move back and forth a bit, and you have 3 robots climbing right next to you.
No, that's only the first one. That's only the first one.
Well, but people are going to probably start on the first one. The point is, I think with those runs, you're going to end up with a lot of robots hitting each other while trying to hang.
I think more people are gonna go for the second one because it doesn't spin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
There's more points.
It's only a little bit higher.
The second one doesn't count any points. It's the third and fourth one, right?
It's spinning aside, what I'm feeling is when robots try to like move forward on rugs, they're probably going to get some sway.
Oh, they're gonna, yeah.
Yeah, and they might hit each other trying to move forward on the rug.
It's just gonna be so funny.
Like if the hooks and then they start swaying, and if the hooks are only like this,
Yeah.
My question, are they linearly aligned, all 4 rungs?
I think the first one is off, the next 3 are like consistent measurements.
Here, let me find the picture.
But basically, we can use like the lift from like power up or something and be like.
Yeah, we can get to the second one relatively easy.
Okay, so if I look at the picture, the rungs all look equidistant, not
Yeah, so you
vertically.
could
but-
hang on, hang
The
on
first
second-
one, yeah.
Hang on the second one, then grab to the first one, and then just reach out to the fourth.
Because I feel like
Are we ready?
reaching to the rungs like that, it'd be easier to just go for the second and then go up, because you don't have to deal with the difference in measurement
Yeah.
between going from the first to the second.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're gonna have it adjust and say, okay, I'm on the first, I need to reach out this far, and then I'm on the second, I need to reach out.
Well,
this
the
far.
first one also swings.
Yeah, that too.
Can you grab onto the metal supporting structure?
I think it did say you can. I don't know if
Oh,
you're supposed
really?
to, you can be in contact with it to count points. I don't know if you're allowed to lift yourself from it though.
Let's see.
I wouldn't expect we.
Well, I mean, using as a support,
Um,
a reference position when you try to go to the higher rung.
It may have said you cannot do that, I don't remember.
What are the
Should our
construction
climbing
limits?
rules be?
It's still the same or like?
Just the standard ball shooter that it shoots up high with
Maybe we'll keep the same chassis and save ourselves some work.
Yeah, that's
you just need like a tank, so it's
Yeah,
like.
it's against FRC rules, but I'm not that worried about it, because we
But,
have 3 days.
yeah, I was like,
And
are they gonna check our speed?
Okay, so here's also a climbing thing for this year. You can't support other robots with climbing.
Ooh.
I know.
What? We
No,
can't
I
do the
got
carbon
it.
fiber fold-out platforms for the triple climb?
No.
I want to see like 254, like flip those down and have like 2 robots drive on it and just go boop, 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 all the way up.
Yeah.
see.
Not with just one hook, right? It'll pull hard enough that they actually take the hook off the bar and hook it onto the next one.
No, I would kind of want to see someone try to do like the extended platform thing, and they climb with 3 robots, and both the other robots just get launched off when it spins. Go, "Whee!"
You need it. No, what you need is extended platforms that then have a piece on either side that crushes the robots in against you. So that
Yeah, but
They like fold in.
I don't know what the climbing this year structurally. I feel like this is not the year to go lightweight on your durability.
Well,
I can't wait for the fall compilation.
Because there's
No, literally,
definitely
that's
going to
what-
be
that's
some
the-
like 10-foot
I'd
drops.
straight up like
Oh my god. Well,
people
that's gonna be
being
less
on
fun because
Steamworks,
it's
like
gonna be
the people
rapid.
like robots dropping this. This is on a whole other level. How high is that thing? Is it
Well, at
6
least
feet?
with Steamworks, I'm
You
gonna
can do
say
like
with
a graph
Steamworks,
or
it was just
some
a
competitions this year, that's gonna be a little less fun.
The thing is,
Six falling. Oh my God.
the steam
What's
is
really fun, too, is
Steamworks
watching some
climbing
of
is
those teams
mechanically
try to
a
get
lot
robots
more
off of
easy
bars
to
that are way out there.
develop.
Yeah, oh god.
So that's why we had so many fall
Jesus.
compilations.
Because
It was already terrible
If you
for
have a
like,
140-pound robot that's hanging
Yeah.
chest high,
well, I mean, what's the weight limit? It's like 125.
it's
Probably.
probably 120 plus
Then they
battery
increase
bumpers.
So 125.
Then they increase the weight.
Oh, did they?
No,
Let me
it's like
check.
every season they like start at a lower weight and increase it.
I've never heard
The
of
weight limit this year is 125.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Oh, swag, I just guessed right.
That's what happened with
Bro.
like 2019 is they started a lower weight limit and
Yo, by the way,
raised
if
it.
anyone does need to download a decrypted copy of the manual, I'm serving it, so.
Just post it in the Slack. as a
Okay,
file.
I posted it in the Discord, I'll post it in the Slack.
No,
too.
You're not allowed to redistribute.
Oh, they'll never know, it's local.
Oh,
I'm not worried
What
about
are
that.
they
I mean, it is publicly live.
Yeah.
Dean came in the comment to get blacklisted.
I'm just like,
And his little wheelchair comes out in our door like.
He'll just, well, because it's through an NC State IP, so he'll just blacklist all of NC State from.
Oh no.
I sent out the link.
Alright.
I don't actually have Slack on my computer, so I will not be uploading it.
What?
But you can
Did
just
you
click the
put
link
wait,
and
is
it'll
this
serve.
without the password or with the password?
Without the password.
open in Zoom,
Why is it opening in Zoom?
bro.
What is wrong with your phone?
Zoom probably has a PDF reader.
Does? I doubt it.
Well, I'll save it to my files. Jesus.
I can
should've
see
brought my
y'all
computer.
taking
Like,
my
I thought about it, and I just.
Oh,
I don't know why I
wait,
did
what?
Yeah.
What team are you on?
Oh, I'm, like, previously or right?
No, like for today, not.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think you're Wild Wizard.
Yeah. Yeah, my response.
Let's see. Okay, looking more in the manual. Let's see. Frame perimeter is still 120 inches.
Okay, I can find a video.
Do they don't
And
have
4
any-
foot 4 inches is the height.
Alright, so.
Starting.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm not sure what the total height is.
So I guess they're expecting
Like
some
5.
people to try and go for like the
Feel free to come up
a
with
lift.
Does
Speak up.
dietary restrictions count like a shellfish?
No, there are no shellfish here.
Darn.
Okay.
But like any
Basically,
vegetarians.
if you want a veggie sandwich, sure.
That is so defeating.
Wait, what are the dimensions again?
120 inches.
So starting configuration, it's 120 inches perimeter and cannot be more than 4 feet 4 inches tall.
What's
Um,
there's gonna be a different.
When
What's like the max height after
yeah, I
starting?
got you.
Yeah.
Extension limit.
Yes.
Extension limit is 16 inches.
In any direction.
Beyond their frame perimeter.
Okay. Does it have a vertical extension limit?
Let me see.
That's like marked on the field too. Like on the climber, there's like a little marker on it to mark like the maximum height. I think it's like.
You can't.
Let me see.
No,
You
I
can go.
specifically said the robot height restriction means that you can only grab the first 2 bars while you're on the ground.
Except if you develop like a jumping mechanism and you're going.
Well, yeah, while you're on the ground.
Yeah, you
So you
develop
either
like.
have to figure out how to jump. Actually, there's an issue with jumping though too, because your bumpers have to remain fully supported and within like 2 to 7 inches of the ground.
Then how do you
If
climb?
you, if, well, no, sorry, at the bottom of the robot. So
Well,
if you
then
have
you
something
make
that
the-
extends
Okay.
down-
You make the jumper integrated with the bumper.
Yeah, if you have something that extends down below your chassis,
I got you
below
with the
your chassis,
heavy on height.
then the bumpers and the frame perimeter have to drop.
5 feet 6 inches.
It looks like there's, if you have part of your robot bumper in the hanger zone, the limit is 5 foot 6
Set at
inches.
1:30. We're gonna do it early.
So how,
On the calendar, we have lunch at 1:30.
Oh, yeah.
so how tall are the runs?
I got to
Alright,
see.
dude.
I get to see.
I can just
I
show
can
it,
tell
but
you we
don't
don't
have
have
the audio.
Heartbreaking my heart. No, no, I just saw it. I'm like, these kids in the team won't appreciate it. Like, I'm
We'll
like,
have one. We'll get one
Yeah.
like first replaces the new one. The next
You know what was really fun to see?
It's just
My
like
high school
showing
team
people.
had the old electronics still sitting around. The piece like that big where you had to stick individual modules into the slots and it was all the serial ports. Yes. Yes. We had a tub full of those electronics sitting around.
Yeah,
Oh my
we
God.
could do,
Oh.
well, might be a little
Yes.
bit more interesting hearing people talk while eating.
Yeah, no,
The
this thing is
discussion
like you literally
and
lift the
everything,
little
just
switch
throwing
and
them
stick
in
the
the
wire.
video.
Like, it's
Wait.
it's so easy.
Yeah.
They're getting closer and closer to the FTC style.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, FTC is
FTC
really
is
nice.
like just buy cables with Anderson power poles on them and
I-
plug them into everything.
Anderson like
Yeah,
the drill
Larry, I
power
just
pole.
did
The drill pole. Yeah, FTC they turned it pretty nice.
FTC, yeah, all of the electronics in FTC are like completely enclosed in a plastic package with Anderson power poles to plug into.
And then okay, prior to that it was USB cables.
Yes.
USB.
Well, it still is. It's USB
Well,
for
it was modern
data.
robotics. No, everything was USB cables.
Okay.
So you had your robot control, then you went to your motor control with USB cables. It was like USB mini to micro.
On that one?
Sure.
It was disgusting. You had to use like mini to micro, micro to mini.
Yes, I remember that.
I might be looking from this one, actually.
So we're gonna eat
Recording on
lunch
the
now,
clock there.
obviously.
Yeah.
Keep taking a look at the rules and we can have a light brainstorming discussion. We're gonna try to get our virtual people
You
up
said
here on the
120
screen.
perimeter, right? 120
120 perimeter, yeah. Do you want the heights for the runs?
Oh, 1 second. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I need to, write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just picked something. I think that's what it technically is. When I ordered this.
It says deluxe.
Yeah.
It says deluxe.
Shorter than we'd like.
Okay, here's the rung heights. Top to low rung is 4 feet, 3/4 inch.
You wanna get that whiteboard somewhere over here?
Yeah.
That'd be useful.
He was taking notes of the speed.
Glad someone did that. Because I'm gonna be asking the entire
I'm just very
the same details over and over.
To be honest with you, I'm just very confident about my ability to assist him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be more stressful than during the other location, but.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Got my program
Yeah,
and safety
just-
glasses.
I think it has like a.
Alright, and then it's like flipping around so
Like,
Does anyone have expo markers?
I think there are some there, aren't there?
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole university policy with food is just, technically we're violating.
Joe.
Yeah, we can't be streaming.
I'll get it in later.
Because technically this is violation of that
Yeah,
policy.
I know, cause I'm.
I know, it's basically you can't, you have to do checks.
Like, it's fine.
Yeah. Based on technical policy, technically you only can basically do checks.
Hey, who doesn't have food?
She's like you and me, Sam.
Okay, what do you want?
And Joe.
Joe,
Hmm?
are we doing streaming while food?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still brainstorming.
Don't worry about it.
Well, it's kind of technically a violation
Once
of
you have a link to
university
the
policy
Twitch, make
with
sure to put it
how
in
food
Slack
is
server right now.
at the university, because it's.
Are you gonna snitch on us?
No, I'm just saying it's technically, but.
And
We don't.
might see.
And, yeah, it's
Well,
what they might see.
No, we don't know. Didn't hear that.
What are you talking about?
We talked to the garage, and the garage basically said, no, there aren't any restrictions on eating or food or.
Because I was doing research for my own professional.
Yeah, for SC.
Yeah, because food at NC State it has to be shelf-stable, single-serve, pre-packaged. So basically.
That's what we have, see?
It's only, no, you only can offer that, so this is how painful it is.
Here's one fun
Or
fact.
raid, you can do raid.
The catering?
Yeah, and pay $3 per coffee.
As far as NC State goes, these are prepackaged.
Weasel.
It has to be pre-packaged and shelf-stable.
They can't tell what's in it.
It's just weird, the whole policy.
I mean, as long as we clean up after ourselves, it's
Yeah.
still good.
Yeah, I'm just saying the policies are weird.
Cody just got the notification.
Listen to me.
True gamer right here. Super auto mouse.
Yeah. I was working on.
Listen, Aaron.
Bro, really? Want the page? Want the page? Sponsorship buys, Robotics.
I just did LEDs for a week.
Amazon?
You got your lease on, you're playing.
100 Thieves, a member right here.
I'm the DSP that doesn't have to. Developer when you invest. Popular business.
How hard was it to get like the job?
Get past it.
I'm applying to an option right now. I'm applying to an option right now.
Opto? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the height requirement on the robot yet?
Wasn't it like?
Like the starting height? I'm sorry.
44 inches and then.
Yeah, they got it.
5'6".
Yeah. 4 feet 4 and 5 feet.
It's only what, 8 inches extension?
Yeah, we don't do it. We just like to use photos of also have to they'll have to request for their files too. Yeah. Whether you're the first part of it or the you get it wrong. The public is just trying. Exactly.
Also, if people want seconds, just let us know. We just want to make sure everyone got one first.
Seconds.
We figured people would, but you know. Okay. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After veggies is mostly lettuce.
It's just lettuce.
There's a little tomato.
Good enough for nutrition.
It's just
Sorry guys, can't find my thing.
I'll go ahead either.
I used to by then.
Trying to visualize how the vegetarian stuff.
Weeds. Yes.
Yeah. That was my problem.
Beautiful. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
I think this is the year of train drive. Instead of motors powering your wheels, you attach pneumatic cylinders.
Oh, good lord. Please no.
How would that work?
Like a
Like a
train.
little gorilla, like, whee!
Yeah, you just
You
put
have-
a big flywheel on it so to carry you past the.
You have your pneumatic cylinders on a rotating piece. You attach them to the wheels, and you go.
It's the same way a car engine works.
Any questions?
I could think of 2 differences between the car engine.
Like, listen, mechanically, it can theoretically work. I'm not saying it's good in practice, but theoretically.
I actually
You
did
can
that
do
way
it.
back with Lego pneumatics.
Your drivetrain would be very low power.
Unless you're at just the right angle.
I mean, but then you could bump into someone's robot and then watch this just gets.
Okay, so, see, here's the trick. Never hit anyone else and never stop moving.
Dude, first would take one look at
Oh, hold on,
that.
another
Like, that
thing,
is
never
not my
prepare-
Ford sponsor.
In addition to those rules, pray to God that no one hits you.
Ford is like, we're the sponsor for all FRC teams except Full Moon Robotics.
Yeah, let's go talk to CSX about a sponsorship.
So we get that Amtrak sponsorship.
No, Amtrak doesn't have any money.
They'll give us at least one pack and gum, I believe in them.
Joe, you're working on getting other people in with us?
Are there other people who want to be in here? Because there's like, I'm the only one in the Discord. So
Have we told
Yeah.
the virtual people to join Discord?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's see, the microphone is on Discord and the sound is the room sound. So hopefully there's no feedback loop.
Got one person.
Let's go. Is that you? Okay.
I joined the Discord to make us feel more populated. I actually registered 5 times for Full Moon Robotics under different names.
Just write a quick script that makes Discord users and then logs them into this. I have to say, this isn't the worst crowd. It's more people than we had last year.
Oh, what?
What we want to start thinking about is like how to break down the game for teams, so kind of analyze it ourselves and then like break it down in a way that is helpful for other teams. We definitely need to pull out the key requirements for ourselves for the build teams.
The primary objective of the game is to win.
Yeah.
The secondary objective is to not lose.
Ranking points.
Don't care about people. Honestly, I'd be so down for like a derby robot.
Our robot this year is just going to be like a chassis with a giant bin on top, and all it does is like capture the other team's balls and never
You're
let them
actually
go.
not allowed to hold more than 2 of the enemy team balls until end game.
As long as we can disrupt them,
Wait, hold on.
more than we
What?
lose points for
That's not the
penalties.
rules.
Yeah,
Is it hold or is it control?
control. So either
So that's
hold,
even harder because
like,
that means
hold or like push or anything like that.
So theoretically, you could push like your own ball into like an enemy player, any robot, and just be like,
That would probably get fouled, but
And you'd have to do at least 3.
It's a lot of work.
okay. Alternative idea.
Hear me out.
Aiming it right at their.
It would be funny.
It would be funny.
Look, what you do is you put leaf blowers on all ends of the robot, and it just drives around like blowing away the
I
balls.
actually saw someone on Discord was talking about like having some sort of a thing to disrupt like the loading station, where like the balls are coming in, just to
Yeah.
disrupt that.
And the best part is you don't have to need a drivetrain if your leaf blowers are powerful enough.
oh.
You can just kind of like, you
just
can
have
just
wheels.
put it on caster wheels and just let
Yeah,
it
like
spin.
little shopping cart with
Omnigos and go wee.
Just like, sorry ref, we have no control over this robot. We just hit start and it goes.
It's on
Can't even
autonomous the
e-stop
whole
it.
time.
It's just, it just keeps going.
Whichever leaf blower happens to be a little bit more powerful than the rest. That's
I'd say we can hit the kill
That's the direction
switch,
he's spinning.
but like we'd have to approach the robot, hit the kill switch, and it's achieved a rotational speed of like 30 miles an hour.
The field personnel are just sitting there with their hand over the e-stop.
A literal Beyblade.
Oh wait, we're supposed to put code on the robot? We just hardwired in all the motors.
These are like gas powered leaf blowers too, right?
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
No. You can't have any energy storage on the robot.
If you could.
right. No.
Also, it's
Pneumatic
Actually,
leaf blower.
better than gas-powered leaf blowers. We're going to sneak nitrogen in there. Use nitrogen to run our leaf blowers.
Yeah, wait, we're allowed compressed air, right?
Nitrogen is air. rolling up the competition. You know, compressed nitrogen robot can
I'm
explode
like a
any
massive
moment.
air tank. It's like the size of the robot.
We just get one of the industrial aircraft.
Yeah, see, okay, so like here's the design, right? Wheels, chassis with a bunch of leaf blowers mounted, giant bucket of nitrogen. And a motor controller somewhere in there. Just kind of like taped onto the side.
For what?
Motor control.
Obviously.
How are you controlling the leaf blowers?
We gotta wire them all up to like a bang bang
Can I do the
controller that
servos
just goes.
on,
No, actually, even better. We hook up a bunch of servos that just pull the trigger.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Like.
These poor folks that joined us on Discord. That's what they're talking about.
It's the baby brother.
Yeah.
We're just warming up our brains.
I mean, pivoting to something more serious. Have we basically decided, like, for Drivetrain, we're just gonna do like a normal, like.
We have
West Coast, whatever.
We have a 6-wheel standard Andy Mark chassis.
Yeah.
That's rocker configuration with Omni wheels on one end right now.
I guess we can all agree that's fine.
So yeah, I mean,
Are you just gonna keep that together and just build on top of that?
I don't see a reason to take it apart.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's, you know, an Andy Mark chassis is easy enough for teams to assemble.
Yeah, no, that's like, it's a game.
And we're going to need the durability this year.
and the time.
Time's a big one.
I mean, if it has like the drop center, do you need Omni wheels or not? Like,
I mean,
Maybe.
Not necessarily.
Not
but-
necessarily, but
But it's not a bad thing to have.
My thing with Omni is how slicky it is, like, especially for like a hanger plane.
I mean, if they're only the back set, it's mostly
Well,
fine.
it depends on which way you're
conveniently, we
rocking.
won't have any issues with other robots.
Quick question, do you guys know what last year's chassis is doing at the moment?
It is sitting in the back of the E-garage in the build space.
Okay, sweet.
Actually, the entire robot is right now. That's one of the first steps while we're designing is to tear off what we don't want.
Nice.
Sounds good, okay.
Thanks.
How to start any first challenge. Like, take a corpse of those previous robots.
I mean,
Well,
technically, you're not supposed to. There's rules about that. But
We're not a first team.
true.
But
But to any first teams watching, make sure you follow the rules on reusing stuff because that is very important.
yes.
Yep.
Just rip out all of your favorite motors out of the old robot instead of taking the old robot completely.
Oh no.
That's okay. I'm gonna look it up. Y'all keep talking. Keep going.
Okay, wheel-wise though, question. What are the wheel options we have?
Like for, in general?
Not much. For what we have on hand right now,
Yeah.
not much.
Do we have like, I assume rubbers.
We've got, I'd have to go look again. I think we have like the standard chassis wheel set. And then I think most of our other wheel options are stealth wheels and compliant wheels,
Okay.
not proper chassis wheels.
But they're all, none of them are omnidirectional wheels, like mechanical
No,
omnis.
we don't have mechanos. We might have Omni wheels.
Okay.
I know we have some, I don't know if we have a full set.
I know with like the,
No, not at all.
I know with the like Andy Mark chassis, if you've got the drop sensor, it sort of defeats the point of the Omnis because the point of that is to keep 4 wheels on the ground instead of 6.
Yeah.
So that's Omnis I've only ever really seen if you have like a flat configuration or you want to minimize.
I could be misremembering it. It could be flat right now with Omni.
Okay, if it's flat with Omnis, then yeah. Just because that I've only ever seen it either flat with Omnis or
Because you're
rocker
right. I completely agree.
Yeah. So Omnis is viable if we have 5, but otherwise not.
I would say probably if you're shooting anything, you probably do want it to be flat because any rocking might introduce
Yeah.
error into your shooting.
Yeah, otherwise you're just gonna have to shoot against the back wall.
Might not be the year for West Coast Drive. unless you like 80-20 or wait on the West Coast drive, so it's all back or forward.
Yeah.
I mean, are we all more or less in agreement that this is a shooter game?
Yeah.
I'd say the only two things are shooting and climbing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth trying to build a shooter for the high?
I'm not sure. I think
Yeah.
Okay,
because I know last year with the shooter we struggled a lot with accuracy. Like it was very difficult to get
That's
something
What tools
consistent.
do you have?
We have a reasonable shot.
Okay.
A flywheel based shooter is not the hardest to develop.
The difficulty of that though is we did that last year and it was not very consistent where shots
It does
were
take a
going
bit to
everywhere. Like
like dial it in.
it's very
honestly.
difficult to get something like that accurate.
Do you have
3 days.
shooter experience too?
Yeah, no, that's what I did for
Awesome.
as the I recently graduated from, so I was
Yeah.
there for Infinite Recharge. My team built a whole. I can show you our robot from last year. It was or like 2 years.
Yeah.
It was pretty solid. We had a turreted shooter.
Awesome.
I will say, like,
Designed the turret.
strategically, to me, it seems like, you know, at least the FRC teams have a bunch of time and resources compared to
Like, we
us.
do have to think scope.
Um,
So I've never actually seen what Infinite Recharge is.
Oh, swag! It's like a little bitty dodgeball, and you just pick it up and shoot it. And a little
Wait, you guys had dodgeball? What the
Yeah, basically.
crap?
Yeah, it
It was
was.
basically dodgeball.
Oh yeah.
But it was like the
Yeah, let me pull up a picture of our robot.
like soft dodgeballs people use. It's really frustrating to play dodgeball with.
Yes. They were what, like 6-inch diameter?
Like, look, I get why people do soft dodgeballs, but they just travel so slowly. Like, you can't hit anyone with
You
them.
can't knock people out with them.
It's so much easier to catch than to hit,
Yeah.
and that just like ruins the game.
I'm like
Catch ball?
thinking like a 2016 style like shooter, probably like something like
Yeah,
that.
no, like,
It was
because
identical.
when I saw that ball, I
It
knew
was
like
identical size to
struggled.
our ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
The problem that we have to consider with like a 2016 style or 2020 style shooter is that a lot of times they can take time to like get dialed in.
That
we
is
have
the
to-
issue,
Yeah.
but
Because like
Well-
it took like a week to get like when I was doing a shooter in 2020, it took like a week to get that thing dialed in and shooting
Well,
really somewhat
I
accurate.
really hate to say this, but the reveal video is recorded. We can actually select the shots that we.
Very true.
nice.
That's what we did last year.
Oh, swag. Okay.
And we
I
can say
mean-
to teams, you know, if we had an
This
extra
is-
week, we could get this dialed
If I
in,
were a
but.
team, I would recommend a shooter. For us, it might not be the best idea, but like it's if
Well,
you're
we
Okay,
can,
so-
also, we can also build a shooter and say, you know, our shooter's kind of okay, this is what we do to
See,
improve.
we could have like a shooter and like the basic climb, like oh, we got to the lower like section.
yeah.
Yeah, so here would be what I'd argue. You got a simple shooter, right?
We do
Flywheel or something.
ground pick up and simple shooter.
And basically what you do
Yeah.
is, as we have time, just kind of choose a distance to shoot from, and we dial in for that
Or maybe
distance.
set it up on like some sort of
And we
floor
just kind of
marking.
save that.
Like we align to some sort of a floor marking, so we don't have to like either like
Yeah.
eyeball it or tape measure it.
Well, I mean,
I think that'd be what most
if
people
we
do.
want to go for a longer shot, there's the safe zones we could align to.
I don't know.
Yeah, but those are at an angle.
That's gonna be hard to
Okay,
shoot
they're an
from, too.
angle.
We're gonna need like some
What
pretty
I
darn
was
good precision.
thinking, if with like rescue, how it had a lot of the teams for that year, they had a front like ground intake. You got the ball directly fed into a flywheel shooter, so you just had a straight pass-through system.
Oh, shoot. 16-inch extension this time. We have a ground intake where the balls from last year built already too. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like an over bumper.
Another thing to discuss, shooters aside, climbing.
I would just say
Do we want to address that?
Again, I think
Maybe
just
the
do the
first
lower
round.
one and be like,
just do around.
Just go for the mid.
I think
or the middle and lower one because I don't think we got the time to do the whole.
I think we should.
Monkey
I
ball.
think we should at least aim for the second one.
I think I don't want to try to do the
Yeah,
first. The first one's mechanically more complex because it spins.
Mm.
Well, we would.
It's easier just to
I
extend
don't-
higher and reach the second.
Yeah,
I don't think
also-
the spin's gonna be that like.
Yeah,
Bad.
I don't foresee that as a huge issue if you have a
Yeah.
rigid hook. Anyway.
Where
I mean, like, it adds more mechanical variance compared to just going higher.
like
Especially when the robot's starting size is so tall anyway.
yeah.
You know, if it was a max starting size of 16 inches, then building a hook to get that high is more difficult.
Here's the shooter.
And I mean, the
This
second
what
run
turret-
is
this
worth more
what
points.
This
Yeah.
is prototyping last year.
Awesome.
Or not the year before, actually, for our shooter. It was,
That looks a lot like my team.
yeah, nothing crazy, but we did it. With not a lot of funds, we just slapped it together.
I hate to tell you, but we're probably poor.
Oh, it's okay.
Problem.
We can make something work though.
I'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely no turret.
Yeah, it's gonna have to face one direction.
Well, turn in 3 days just requires a bigger team.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a team the size of our whole team probably could develop that.
Wait,
Well, I was just thinking,
the size of our whole team.
A build team the size of the
Yeah.
entire
Oh,
RA.
I see.
Build have designed the same size just for the turret.
I was just thinking, our 3-day time limit aside, it seems like rather than having a turn or something, this game would make a lot more sense to do some kind of omnidirectional movement, whatever your preferred wield is, and just have a rigid shooter.
Mhm.
That's
Probably.
fair, that's fair.
Like
Except,
getting mechanics or something on there and just having a rigid shooter seems like a lot
except
better
if
way
you
to
get
play
to the programming side where you can have the shooting automated.
it. Mhm.
Can you take it notes?
Yeah, and except if you can get the automated shooting, probably just a rigid shooter.
Yeah, well, I mean, automated shooting, rigid shooter, yeah. I mean, if you want to do automated shooting, you probably
You
want
can still
a
do it.
sensor for distance.
The other thing to consider though is,
There's the reflective
like,
gauge.
Yeah.
the thing to consider is that a low score would be 1 point and a high score is 2 points.
Yeah.
But if you miss a bunch of high scores, but you can get low consistently, it'd be better to go for low.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'd have to sort of weigh that and say, can we make a shooter that consistently does the top one, or would it be better to go for a more kind of stable mechanism that could do the lower consistently and fast?
It's also dead simple to make a shooter for the low, where you drive up against the
Yeah.
surface and it's at the back of the robot and just
Because
shoot.
like I've seen this has happened a lot in FRC games. There's like a low objective and a high objective, and a lot of the teams will try and do the high objective and not do it very well, when the low objective might end up have worked better for them. So that's
Well-
definitely something to weigh.
Here's my thoughts on high and low. If you design something that can theoretically do high, you can just tune it at a lower power to do low.
True.
But you spend more time making it so that it could work with high.
Mhm.
Also, for people that are watching us, they're more likely to be wanting to try to do it high, and that's more useful.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what kind of team we're targeting.
Well, if they're rookie teams, they're probably gonna do a solid low shooter. Or they're just gonna try to get anything working.
Could display both ideas.
I think if we go for a low shooter, what would be valuable for a low shooter is speed, because you wouldn't need to be as lined up and accurate with the shot.
Mhm.
So you might as well make a fast robot.
We actually have shifting gearboxes.
Yeah, so there we
I
go.
think
Just like
the thing with low is that I think for it to work, you have to have a really good throughput. That means like you can't have anything jam, you can't have anything
Yeah.
fail. You have to just be constantly funneling to match like a good high team.
we'll also say, all the balls that are shot in get kind of sent out on the sides, right?
Yeah. I actually did read also that when the balls are sent out, you're not allowed, I think this applies more for the top one, but when you shoot balls in there, you're not allowed to catch them again until they hit the ground or any other field geometry.
Okay.
So you can't
So you can't
constantly
just
recycle.
sit and bucket.
Okay, so it's
They've learned
floor
that.
pickup.
Yeah.
Floor pickup will be okay because it's on the floor already.
Yeah.
But
Well,
how much
that's-
of those
that's the
balls
only-
bounce?
They-
2/3 the drop height about, it looked like.
Yeah.
2/3 to half the drop height.
Oh, if it's dropping from the top, it feels like that's like going to take a while to get down to ground pickup.
Oh.
If it's going 2/3.
Yeah, she dropped them from 5 feet and it bounced 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
It says it in the manual, it should bounce like,
I'm almost wondering if it might be somewhat
tennis
viable
ball-like.
if you have like a lower sitting robot to just kind of catch them on top somewhat.
Yeah, they have to bounce height in the manual. It's between, if it's dropped from a height of 3 feet, it will bounce back at a height of 2 foot 1 inch to 2 foot 6 inch. So yeah, about 2/3.
I feel like you could catch from the
It seems like a
kind of fun
non-zero
top
amount
height.
will bounce out of the field.
My guess is what the
Oh.
prediction.
Yeah,
No,
but
wait, what if it just bounces on the, like, on the parts of the robot? Like, oh,
Yeah,
like,
so-
it just smacks right on top of it.
That's a legitimate concern.
Oh,
You need a robot that's strong enough that falling.
And you have to
giant
make sure
tennis
your
balls
power,
won't break it.
you have to make sure your shut-off switch is not able to be hit by a falling
We
ball.
had that issue power. No, it wasn't power up.
My team has that issue with the Frisbee game. Frisbee all the way across the field hit the power switch.
There's someone I know, there was like FTC and like at Finals of Worlds, another robot back hit them somehow that emergency set off.
Ours is a throw from the human player though.
From a different team's human player.
No, it was us.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. I was just going to say my thinking on the low robot and the stuff running down the sides though, is if we go for like a low robot, maybe also focus on kind of like going for those side balls and grabbing the ones from our team and disrupting the other team.
I think it's,
Because once again, if we're not focused on shooting, we've got, more chance to run disruption at
I
all.
think having a climbing mechanism that only collapses down to 3 or 4 feet would be very convenient though. It's a lot easier to build something that's 2 stages than 4 or 5.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, catching the balls when they're bouncing is the hard part.
You could also do a short robot with a tall pole in the corner.
Well, I almost wonder if you can kind of give up on if the ball manages to hit near the climbing mechanism, just like build something protected around the climbing mechanism.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also
And
have,
try to catch
like,
from the front or back.
You could have the climbing mechanism like rotate 90 degrees, like store it sideways, have it flip up when you need it or something.
Yeah, that's one more degree of complexity.
Yeah, I think we're trying to keep the climbing mechanism simple, probably. Unless you really feel the multi-stage power.
What was the consensus on climbing?
We're thinking the second to lowest bar.
Okay.
Do we want to go to the whiteboard and start kind of like writing out ideas and dimensions?
Yeah, does somebody want to be the whiteboard chief?
I can.
You got it? All right.
One interesting rule about climbing is the robots can't climb on each other this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like dimension-wise, we probably want to get down our robot numbers. So the 120-inch
Yeah,
perimeter.
120-inch like perimeter. Like
Yeah.
max height is like 4 feet 4 inches, and like without the extensions. With
Oh, you're like
extensions-
drawing it. Okay, I would have just written numbers in the corner.
It's a sexy robot. What can I say?
Max
So-
weight is 125.
Yeah.
What is it?
125. Oh,
But the
that's
perimeter is
like max
120.
Perimeter is
weight,
120.
Max weight is 125.
Sorry. There we go.
Max starting height
Is
is
4 feet 4 inches.
Yep.
And like without the extensions, with extensions 5 feet 6 inches.
16-inch extension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I understood the rules correctly, you can only do that extension in the hangar.
Yeah, that's what I
The-
assume.
well, the horizontal. With the horizontal extension is
Yeah, wait,
16
hold
as
on.
well.
Oh yes,
the
I
hangar?
talked about the vertical
Yeah.
extension is only possible
What's
in
the
the hangar.
what's the vertical extension limit?
16 you said, right?
Okay.
Let me check.
Okay. From 4'4" to 5'6" is 14.
It's a foot and 2 inches, so yeah.
Yeah, 16 inches.
It's 16? Okay.
Yeah. Robots may not extend over 16 inches beyond that frame perimeter.
Well, that's the horizontal extension.
Yeah, let me get you the vertical.
The
so-
limit's 5'6", right? Whatever.
Okay, I thought I had it, okay. Searching the manual, let's go.
So is the human player like the shooting part? That's only on autonomous, right?
Yeah.
Just saw that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, when you're in the hangar zone, the limit is 5 foot 6 inches.
Only in the hangar.
Only in the hangar.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, I think you need to meet the starting configuration 4 foot 4 inches.
What do you mean? You can't go 5 feet 6
Um,
inches and start shooting the ball?
And on the subject of climbing, let me get the rung heights. Let's see, rungs.
Be prepared for run dimensions.
Okay. Low rung, mid rung, high rung and transversal rung. We probably only need the mid for these purposes, so I'll give you that. The mid rung, the top of it is 5 foot 1/4 inch. Mhm.
Is it possible to see the board?
Yeah, that might be a problem.
No,
Okay.
no.
Not sure, maybe.
Just get the focus off
Bring the
us
board,
against the
bring the
board.
board back next to the group.
You can put it like back there, maybe?
You're not gonna be able to.
Okay, other dimensions for the rungs.
Maybe at the screen, like,
From-
point it forward.
You're not gonna be able to read the right on the board.
The width of a rung is 7 feet, but you might want to fit up to 3 robots on there. So
I'm not
7
gonna be able to
feet
focus.
width. And let's see.
Turn the whiteboard a little bit more. So I can see it.
And then,
The rungs themselves are 1/4 inch
That's
pipes.
gonna be difficult to see. I need to adjust the exposure on
It's
that.
so bright, yeah. Let's see, I'll get on.
Or turn off the lights, maybe?
Let's see. I need to get this over here so I can see it. Okay, what?
Thomas is considering getting another sandwich, but I feel like I'm just going to get trapped in the sandwich loop.
Yeah. I'm trapped in the same.
Okay, last dimensions I think for the pipes
Could you move it like that
is
way a little bit into the shade? Just so it's
And the lights off definitely helps.
yeah, that helps a little bit.
there are 1.66 inch diameter, outer diameter for the pipes.
I don't think that really matters to that diagram, but
Okay.
keep that number in the back of your head.
Yeah. I think that's about all for the pipes and robot
Wait, what's
dimensions.
the height differences between each, like, pipe?
Between each pipe? Okay.
I'm trying to find them, but I can't find that anywhere here.
Well, it gives you the ones per like pipe and we can calculate. So high rung is 6 feet 3 5/8 inch.
Oh, the 5/8 is important.
And the transversal is 7 feet 7 inches. And the low is 4 feet 3/4 inches. So if someone wants to calculate those differences, all the power to you.
Where are the dimensions again?
They're all written down.
Here.
They're in the manual.
They're in the.
Control F is your best friend in the manual.
So if anyone's watching, you probably have a calculator for like standardized tests. I recommend bringing it to the build space.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, I'm gonna get mine out too.
Let's see. All right. Middle.
What's the question?
What?
Which distances?
The height distance
The
differences between the
distances
pipes.
between each, like, thing.
It's around like 29.
I feel like doing this in like a
Do you guys want to change the Twitch view also to what we're seeing?
I'm working on it, yeah.
Okay. Also pipe dimension wise, so between the 3 on the top, there's 2 feet distance.
2 feet exactly?
2 feet. It says 2
Horizontal or vertical?
feet. Horizontal.
Okay.
And between the first rung and the rest, it's 3 feet 6 inches. So that is significantly longer.
Yeah, so I'd say definitely, like, in terms of consistency, if we can, I'd say go for this one, just because this one's like kind of the outlier. This one's more consistent with the rest. So like if a team wanted to take our design and extend it to be able to kind of monkey bar up, doing that from here is easier because it's consistent.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying do it from the lower one to the top one?
We're
From the mid
get
one.
rid of this one. Ignore that, just
Ignore
because
the lowest one.
it's not
Okay.
consistent with the rest of the measurements.
Yeah,
so it'd be
it's-
more difficult to monkey bar up if someone wanted to do that.
It also is the only one that swings, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, and going
that would make
from,
climbing more difficult.
and 5 1/4 is not materially more difficult to reach this year than the
Yeah,
lower
that's only like another what? 11?
No, I'm fine with that
one.
now.
Yeah,
All right.
11 and a half, I think, yeah.
Okay. Any other dimensions you want to write down?
Maybe the heights of the
Do-
goals.
Yeah.
The heights of the things we're shooting into. Yeah, one sec. Let's see. Hub. Okay. Alright, so the height of the lower hub, rim from off the ground, is 3 feet 5 inches. And the ceiling of it is 5 foot 7 inches, like the bottom of the other one. Yeah, that.
There.
Yeah. And then the height of the rim on the top is 8 foot 8 inches, which is pretty high.
Yeah, that is.
So that's the dimensions for those shooting things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking we go low goals.
What?
I'm thinking we go low goals.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking low too. Just try I feel like I would rather have like a rock solid low robot than a somewhat janky high robot. Especially if that means we could also have more time to focus on, say, a climb mechanism instead of putting all our time into a shooter that may or may not work. Especially because, unlike in 2020, there's no backboard here.
Yeah,
So it'd be very easy to fire an
No, you
arc
gotta
right
get the
over.
arc right.
I do.
Yeah.
And it has to be a higher shot than
Yeah.
that even to come down.
Like I would say probably firing like underhanded, like
And I
throwing
would-
it up
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So
instead
I
of throwing
would
it forwards.
also argue for the low because you've got the chains on the low.
That too, yeah.
It's safer to do a more horizontal shot than you can do for a high.
Wait, so what's the difference between the lowest, like low like ring, and like the height of the robot? Like, what's that? How wide is
We
that?
could build a robot that is taller than
Yeah.
the height, the rim of the
You
logo.
could build a robot that just elevators into the bottom.
Like they have it in like the.
I was thinking more like it just takes the ball and just puts it in rather than shooting it.
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like in the video they had one where it was like a platform that like lifted up and just dumped them in.
And they actually
Yeah.
said in the reveal that the player station is slightly higher than
Yeah,
the
so
rim.
you could use the station to recycle. I would say that might not be a good idea because people might be fine trying to defend that and whatever.
Yeah, and it's more time, but theoretically you could even just build a robot that has a spot to store balls that's slightly sloped and a gate at the end.
Actually,
And push them over, have a player put them back in the top.
Seems very similar to our robot from previous years.
I will
With that
actually.
ramp.
Yeah, I will say that's a good question though. Going for the low one, do we want to shoot her into that or do we want a different mechanism?
I don't know. I feel like some
Because
sort of a dumping mechanism would be more reliable, where you
Yeah,
could
that's
have
what I was
both
gonna
the.
say, like,
You
having-
could
I would
hold
say
two balls and
let's-
just dump them in.
Let's essentially build an enclosed tube
Yeah.
that elevates the
So I
balls.
feel like a dumper or like a shooter. I feel like also has higher chance of say getting jammed. You need to figure
Yeah.
out how to index balls into that because if you're holding two, you can't put them both through at the same time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I definitely think dumping would be viable as long as we have it fast, which all we really have is dumping and climbing. That would be pretty low
Yeah.
weight.
I think that's easy.
And in some sort of a way of taking the balls from ground level, putting them into a dumper that would be at the right level. You could just have a little pneumatic cylinder or something that just pops it up, roll them in.
Even easier than that, I think we do it 2 shafts on the top and 2 on the bottom, and then wrap them in circle tubing. And just
Yeah,
suck
okay.
balls up the tube by running the essentially conveyor belts.
Okay,
This
so
is starting to sound very similar to our last robot.
if it works, it works.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we could literally take that robot and play the game with it.
No, we need to make everything about 3 inches larger for the new game pieces.
Okay.
If we were to do that.
So
It's a
Wait, I
balance
have a
strategy.
question.
okay, yeah, you go
What's-
say something.
Is there any advantage to shooting into the logo versus dumping?
I would say no.
I
I'd
would
say it's
say
worse for
yes. I would say the one advantage of the shooting is I didn't see any restrictions on shooting zones. So theoretically, with a shooter, you'd have more places you could
You
hit
would have to
into
shoot
from.
really straight and far though.
Also,
I think it's very high velocity.
We don't,
like,
it's,
if you're
we
shooting
don't
for
have
2
the
feet.
virtual field
But I-
pulled up, but you might have interference from the actual structure.
Yeah, because there's only so much space here that you'd have to shoot into.
Yeah.
It'd be better to shoot idle at that point.
I feel like a dumper would just be more reliable in general though, and I feel like that's
And if
a
you-
huge thing that I always see is people going for a complex mechanism like a shooter and
Unless-
then having it be very janky.
I would say, yeah, unless we can build a high goal shooter with at least half the reliability and speed of a low goal dumper, then it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
But
So,
I'm gonna say, if we do a low goal dumper, we probably should have ground pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
I
so,
completely agree.
is everyone in favor of like a dumper then?
Sounds solid.
Any objections?
I'm good with it as long as we make a good climber.
Alright,
Yeah,
yeah, I
that-
think
that's
we,
the thing with the dumper too.
it
is we
allows
have
us to
more- it'd be
focus.
simpler if we could also work on a climber repair.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say is, what are we probably, let's evaluate what we wanna think about doing for a climber
Yeah.
before we decide upon shooter, because depending on what we just think about is the best viable for a climber, that might just be a very design and mechanically simple comparatively.
Keep in mind too that the sort of teams that are building reliable high goal shooters aren't looking on the YouTube for
Well, yeah.
how to build a better shooter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Our target audience is the people that are
Yeah.
not as good a team.
So I do actually want to mention something on the climb. I'm not sure there's technically any rule against being on a multiple runs when you climb.
Yeah, so they said,
Yeah.
basically, if you're in contact with multiple rungs, the lowest one you're touching will count.
Okay, the lowest, got it.
If I remember correctly.
Wait, what?
So you don't want to
So
be
if
touching
you're
multiple.
holding, say, this rung and this rung, you'll get points for this rung.
Oh, okay, like that.
You have to let go of this one to get points for this.
You have to let go and not have any
Yeah, it does say
contact.
lowest, which is a shame because I was about to suggest sticking to the middle rung more reliably by holding the lower, but I think if we just want to be on one rung and we don't want to climb rungs, I think we probably want to climber center mass.
So,
I would argue if we're dumping, I'd want to try and get to the higher rung than just.
I'm not sure if we made the decision, but have we decided which rung we're trying to aim for?
That's what we're
Discussion
discussing.
before.
Yeah.
Our discussion before, I think we basically eliminated this one. I think we were talking about at least this one.
Yeah.
My opinion on this is you go for the highest one.
Why?
And,
Because this,
cause it's worth 15 points.
The struggle, Alex, is we can only reach the bottom two if the robot is sitting on the ground without extending outside the height limit.
yeah, so you have to
Correct.
grab onto this one before you can go up to the next one.
Correct. I agree.
then it's
Yeah,
kind of like
also-
a climbing thing,
Yeah.
if you have to go for the higher rungs.
I think,
Yeah.
actually, it might be trivial to get from the middle one to the high rung.
I would say definitely figure out a mechanism for the middle, and then maybe say, if it looks like
Yeah.
it's going to be simple, straightforward, we could add on the next
Well,
one.
Hold on, let's not do that either. So, everyone's thinking to get to the middle, you're just going to extend up to 5 feet 6 inches and grab the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then you want to suggest adding on somehow to get to the next rung.
Yeah.
It may be easier potentially on how we want our space to say we want to grab the low rung first, knowing that by doing that we can have more space to design to be able to go between the rungs.
It's a lot further horizontally
Yeah,
for
so
the lower
the
rung.
problem with the lowest is that it's inconsistently spaced from the rest of them. You'd have to be able to adjust, because the top three are consistently separated.
2 inches.
They're all
Yeah,
2
2
feet
feet.
apart with the same height, etc. The low one is sort of the outlier. So if we grab this lowest one first, we'd have to reach a different amount to the next one as the next of those. So we'd have to figure out how to account for that. That's why we were saying just grab the middle one. So if we wanted to sort of monkey bar up, a consistent distance for each one.
If I can propose another thing to consider when we talk about these climbing things, the difference between the mid rung and high rung is 4 points. You score 1 point per ball in, and so if the amount of time it would take the robot to like get between rungs is more or less equivalent to the amount of time the robot could just score 4 balls.
Yeah, I feel like
I disagree entirely. It's gonna take you longer to score 4 balls.
I mean, it depends.
You only have 11 balls for your entire alliance to share.
Mhm.
And you know probably at least 3 of those are going to be trapped somewhere on your opponent's side of the field. Unless you have an amazing intake, you're never going to be able to make 4 balls in the amount of time that's going to take you to climb an additional rung.
That's only 4 balls if you're doing the logo.
Yeah.
That's 2
And
balls.
I think we've agreed on doing the logo.
Yeah, I'd say we probably don't have the time or resources to do both, like some sort of shooter like that and be able to monkey bar up. I feel like that's just a bit too out of scope for 3 days.
Alex, what are you proposing for a monkey bar mechanism?
We need to go and look at Rebound Rumble 2013.
Yeah, Rebound Rumble was 2012.
Oh, sorry, Ultimate Ascent is 2013. That's what we need to go and look
I
at.
feel like it's definitely going to
That's what
involve
the timing pyramid.
2 sort of grabbers where you'd have to have one to grab onto that bar and one to grab the next.
I think going
Most
from
likely, yes.
the mid to the high is fairly trivial. You could have a rigid hook mounted to grab the high bar that doesn't move at all.
You just have to make sure you're in the right angle to be able to do that.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
What if we had a winch that just tossed a little hook, a grappling hook sort of thing? It's so easy to make a winch.
And then you would let go. Like you could get any sort of thing
go
on this
outside,
bar
right.
and then let go of the bottom and just kind of swing from that.
Okay, a question on the winch.
Yeah.
If we winch the robot, could we get it to, not swing around at all? Because the 3 robots are trying to climb this thing at the same time, theoretically.
I don't know if you
And we don't want to, like, swing into our teammates.
We also have to worry about.
Aren't trying to climb an art thing though.
We also have. Yeah, it'll be 3 robots in the same place.
In actual play,
We don't have other
Keep in
robots.
mind, you can don't have to.
Yeah,
go
but we're
all the
trying
way
to
up
create
your
something
winch.
like-
You can be lower on your winch to not interfere. And not touch
We
the
also,
ground.
my other potential issue with the winch is we can't go more than 16 inches outside the frame perimeter.
How far is it between the 2?
It's 2 feet. But if our
Oh,
robot
like
is
2 feet.
hanging centered on one, the next bar is fine. But how do we
it's
make
just the
sure a winch
danger.
can't go too far?
Yeah, also the danger is if we drop the winch, that might also be an
We
issue,
might break the
because
height
then-
restriction.
Yeah, then we break the height restriction potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say just try and focus on. I don't know. Like I feel like it's just a matter of like trading off time. Where if we focus on designing a mechanism to get up to the next one, that may impact our ability to get up to the first one in the first place. Like I'd rather invest time in getting a rock solid mechanism for this than trying to get up to here and not being
I
able to
would
get there.
say let's.
I
What have you got, Alex?
mean, I don't. From a strategic point of view, I don't see what going for the mid-rung does for you.
In my opinion, I think, well, from a gameplay perspective, yes, the points for that high run are extremely valuable, but we also have to look at it within the context of our resources and our time available. And within that context, I would say that the mid run is the only one that would be feasible. I don't believe that the time trade-off, like was being discussed, would be worthwhile unless we come up with some really simple and efficient design for climbing higher
Also,
runs.
like, for the teams that would be watching this, I feel like a simple, straightforward, just grab the first bar climbing mechanism would be more useful to see. Okay, here's how we execute it, and we execute it well, rather than something that would be maybe technologically impressive, but it might be out of scope for a lot of the teams watching, or it might not be as reliable as we would want it to be, etc.
Can I get everyone on build to raise their hand?
That's great.
4 of us. 4 people on build.
So I feel like just taking a tried and true, there's like the straightforward like 2020 climber mechanisms where it just goes up and grabs a bar. I feel like just that here would be good for our scope and good for the 3-day time restriction. It would still be better than saying, oh, we're working on a mechanism for this and not finishing it on time.
Can I offer one more thing? I feel like if we design a mechanism that gets to the mid and we have more time mechanically, we could simply create that mechanism a second time and attach them at different places.
Yeah, so
And that would be a
we
solution.
could always change the scope later. If it turns out we get this done in like 2 days and we have a whole nother day, maybe the next one.
Yeah, I love the high bar as a stretch goal.
Yeah, I think let's go with that.
But I think it's time dependent.
Yeah, I think we need to say for now we're targeting mid, And before we even talk about high, we need something for mid that looks like it's going to work very well before we try and expand. Just because we don't want to target high from the beginning and then not get anything done because we don't.
I understand that as well, but I'm also concerned that by focusing on mid, we're gonna make a design that we're not going to be able to adapt if we have that extra time.
Well, okay, as far as
It would be easier to keep in mind that we want to expand onto the higher rungs from the beginning than try to modify a design for the medium.
Well, when we're picking designs, we can include that as a criteria too.
what I was trying to get out with it being kind of expandable is I feel like if you just made the mid one, just shifting that back and putting in another one so they're 2 feet apart
yeah.
can plug into the next one.
He's only gonna be able to fit that on the robot. That's the other thing.
There's plenty of space.
Yeah.
I'm not
I mean,
sure
the only thing it does
I'm
is
not sure how we're gonna have enough space for 2 hook mechanisms and the low roll mechanism.
I don't think there's an issue there.
they're occupying different dimensional areas.
Yeah.
I mean, the hooks are on the side and the scorer is presumably in the middle.
Well, if it'll help with visualizing, I can share my screen and show you guys last year's robot if it helps visualize dimensions.
Have we
Sorry, go
considered? Have we considered grabbing onto the mid rung and then going directly to the traversal rung? Is there some sort of geometry we can use?
We can't vertically
I think
go
that
that.
would be extension, because you can only go
one
16
sec.
inches.
Correct,
So we-
but if we had, say, if we located the mid rung not in the center, the mechanism for that offset, and we can angle the robot so that we can have vertical height extension facing the direction of the transversal rung.
The problem is that would change the center of mass, and like if we were hanging, like if we at markers.
That angle though.
If we were to extend something like that, we something like this, we wanted to extend something that's up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think traversal is probably out of the question for like 3 days. I don't think we could really do that.
Like also even, you're not gonna be able to counteract the motion to actually get that proper angle.
Yeah, I feel like the only way up here that would practical would be to go through the center bar.
Yeah.
And as we discussed, the center bar is already kind of a stretch goal.
We're talking about climbing the thing step by step. I'm also somewhat concerned about the climbing mechanisms handling the rotational force.
Yeah, I don't see us monkey barring. I see us maybe grabbing this and then grabbing that and then hanging from here. I don't see us being able to monkey bar like that with the
Yeah.
resources and time we have.
Yeah.
That might be something to save for teams like 254. Because I feel like even a mid climb would be pretty good for most teams.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it take to get the rank point?
1 sec, I got
I believe you need.
I think everyone has to be off the top.
There's a point number.
I remember seeing something about.
16 points.
16 points.
Oh, I see.
Do we want to add the point numbers to these bars? If that would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does someone read them out?
4, 6, 10, 15.
4, 6.
So 3 robots on the mid bar would work.
Yeah, but what are the odds you're gonna have 2 teammates who can also get on the mid bar?
Or fit.
Yeah, that's the next thing.
It's 9 feet wide.
Oh, it's 9 feet.
It's 9.5 feet, I think.
You know, I'm not sure that 2 teammates on the mid bar is all that unlikely.
I think it is when you consider the width of the bar as well.
The problem is,
I
see
highly
how
doubt
likely
you
it is.
have to be robot to be able to line up on that bar.
I'd say it's more
Think
unlikely.
we're gonna see buddy climbs?
Buddy
Oh,
climbs
you
are
cannot
not-
buddy climb.
You cannot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I see it less likely that you'd even have 3 teams on an alliance that could do mid bar all. just because like it's already like, just looking at past games, that climbing mechanism has been very difficult to pull off effectively. Because like in 2020, you'd see like a lot of teams had that climbing mechanism, but it would never really work. And so I think focusing on getting something like that can work every single time just for this bar would be really useful for a lot of teams, because that's something that historically people have struggled with. And I think that's what most teams are going to be aiming for as well. Like, we have to remember, we're not trying to be like a powerhouse team. We're trying to do what most teams would want to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, also with the hanger bonus, if you do have a teammate who could reach the 10, that would lock it in. Yeah. So, any other commentary on what bar we're aiming for?
I don't know. I'm still of the opinion that doing this middle one would be our best choice, and maybe high if we can figure out a way of doing it without compromising any other parts of the robot. Just because my main thing is just reliability, because that's what kills teams, is they go too overscale and then they end up making something that doesn't really ever work.
Yeah, I also like the idea of a high bar as a kind of stretch goal.
Yeah, I like that too.
So do we want to kind of take a on that? Who supports doing kind of the mid bar and high bar as a stretch goal? Okay, looks like we've got majority. Alright.
So we're doing a goal, and we're gonna go for that second bar, hopefully get to the third one.
Yep. Okay.
Are we gonna do just a scoring mechanism for the low that can, because I'm gonna be like, if we're doing hanging that way and low goal, are we gonna make it where it's like cost can be modified to go to high goal for the shooting? Because that's gonna be easier to develop than the monkey bar system with stretch goals.
I disagree.
I don't know. The thing is with shooters is they take a long time to get right.
Yeah.
Like even with 2020 where you had a backboard and you had this area you were aiming for, I feel like kind of shooting into the basket would be more difficult than that even.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, as far as reaching the things, I think going to the high bar is a lot more achievable as a kind of climbing up to thing. I guess you just need two rigid systems. It's trying to get to the transversal bar that becomes a real headache. And I would be impressed if there were a lot of teams that actually managed to pull it off this year, but.
Because I was kind of getting at is the lower hub entering, isn't that above the non-extension height? Or is it not?
It is.
Are you saying for the like second hub?
For the low goal.
So this is below max robot height. This
Yeah,
is
the
3'5".
max height is 4.
Max is 4'4", 5'6" extended.
So that gives almost a foot of extra space.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Okay, so we got the general idea of what we're aiming for scoring wise then. Mechanisms aside.
We also gotta figure out how we're gonna build this like rung thing.
Oh yeah.
I think there's sort of, the one design that I've seen floating around a lot is where you've got sort of the nested kind of something like this, where you've got another one nested with a hook on it.
Yeah,
You use some sort of like a, what was that?
Like a telescoping.
Yeah, and then you have some sort of winch down here that's connected to it, and you've got some sort of a spring type material here, or somehow, or no, it goes down to like there or something, where you release this winch and it extends, and you can use the winch to pull it back in. That's generally what I've seen for this climbers. They're the best ones are done like this.
Andy Mark sells a pre-made one you can just buy for $150.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd have time to, or money to do that.
No, but like that's something other teams could do.
Yeah. Like that's how, most of like the best climbers I've seen, like especially in 2020, this seems very similar to that, is they look like this.
Yeah, and that's just like with the Andy Mark one. It's just nested pieces, square tubes with a hook on the end.
I've even seen it done with PVC pipe.
Yeah.
Wait, how wide apart are like the different like rungs? Like, what's like the
The higher 3 are 2 foot, the lowest
No,
one.
not like the height, like the width from each rung.
Yeah.
Width side to side is 2 foot.
2 foot, okay.
Yeah, the lowest
Yeah.
one is
3 foot
6,
6 inches.
and the upper gaps are 2 foot.
Yeah, and I was like looking, I was like, why? I was the 2013 game with the frisbees and all that. I was like, oh, what's this one? Couldn't we just pneumatic it? And just go hook, get some support on like the stable like middle bar, and then pneumatic it to the other side.
The problem is you need strong enough cylinders to be able to pull that
Sure.
off. I don't know if we have.
I don't think we do.
Okay.
Also, that requires setting up and dealing with pneumatics.
True.
I don't know, if we want to use the shifters in our gearboxes, we would need some pneumatics, but it wouldn't be very much. If we
Yeah.
wanted larger pneumatics, that would take some more plumbing and infrastructure, which I
A
don't
lot
know.
of tanks, I think.
So I remember pneumatics was a thing last year, that took a while to get up and running.
Yeah.
I remember 2020, I don't think y'all had it really working, and I remember 2021, I helped fix it. and
Yeah.
It took quite a while to get all that squared
Yeah.
away. I think, I'd say maybe for the shifters, we could have like a small tank and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to deal with, or maybe like a small cylinder for dumping or whatever, but not like.
I'd rather not have to put a compressor on the robot.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Could we talk about the action mechanism, like
Yeah.
what we're going to do for that?
Absolutely.
So obviously, I feel like the easiest is collecting off the ground.
Yep.
And then more complicated, I'm not sure if it's really viable or not, would be trying to catch some balls while they're bouncing.
I don't know, I'd say ground would
Ground.
be better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
partially
they're gonna
what I'm-
bounce pretty quick and settle in a few
You only
seconds.
can store 2, so you don't want an over the top
Yeah.
collection.
You don't want them to be able to fall into the robot.
You're right. Yeah. Okay, so ground collection then.
Yeah, I think so. Over
And
bumper?
how will these balls compress?
I do not.
Let me see.
They
They're
look,
going to spec
they
that.
look more like tennis
They're
balls. than like
They are
tennis
tennis
That's what I
balls.
thought. Like it's like a big.
Like they
big
seem
tennis
pretty
ball.
rigid just looking at them.
They're inflated to 3.5 psi. My feeling is we probably want to avoid any kind of collection that really tries to compress
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And like with the over bumper, something else to consider is I remember 2021, there was an issue where when it would collect the balls, they would kind of get flung over the top and not really end up in the robot.
Yeah,
So we probably want to
yeah.
consider something that would guide them into
Yeah.
wherever we're putting
It
them.
needs to be a closed system.
Yeah. So that was something that really irked me about that robot. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, the intake.
Yes.
Do
Are
we,
we absolutely doing it over the bumper? Because it might just be better to do, or how about cut through and just.
cut through bumper?
Yeah.
And we'd have to have something, like some sort of a system to get up into the belly of the robot, sort of.
Yeah, we have to have some sort of
We
pickup.
could, yeah, through bumper might work better, because especially if these don't compress well, something that they could just roll up a slope or something would maybe work better than trying to lift them
Well,
over.
we could also make a roller that compresses instead of trying to compress.
Yeah,
the
like
few
have
elements.
like a.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So for doing a colorway, we need to make sure that we're following the like bumper rules, like we have enough space for the bumpers. You know how wide the chassis we've got is, or the one we're planning on working on is?
Not off the top of my head.
That'd probably be something we need to measure.
Should be in the CAD, right?
If we're using the same one from last year, then I can pull that up.
I think that's what we want to do. We do have a fresh set of metal frame parts, so we could cut new dimensions if we wanted.
Speaking of
Okay.
going over to the garage, it's currently 221. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to start thinking about that soon.
We should.
Yeah, let's keep this rolling here for a little bit and send a setup team in real fast to make sure the maintenance is complete, and then we can transition all of us.
Okay. Okay, so, and also collection-wise, I feel like the simplest collection mechanism we do with the whole kind of like ramping into it, silver, whatever, would just be collect like on one side and dump on the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that doesn't seem like there's disagreement there. Okay.
Hey, Colin.
Yeah.
Last year the frame was 29 inches. What?
Okay.
I thought you asked that.
Kevin, I think.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Say it louder.
I heard 29.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, with collection, something we could think of is like a U shape I've seen sometimes, where instead of picking up from one side and dumping on the other, we could have like a hole in the bumper, sort of like that,
Yeah.
with like a belt running here. That could help both guide balls in like that and send them out. So like we could have like some sort of a U shape there.
So same side.
Because I was thinking like with the thing in the middle, it's sort of like a hexagon, right? Like something like that. Or like if we're dumping balls in here, it might be easier to back out and go pick up the ones that are coming out.
Yeah,
than
and then
having to
just
like
run
back
around.
out and like rotate around. Might
Because
be
you
easier
can
to
dump from
run.
any side, yeah.
So I don't know if that's something we wanted to consider as well. I think right now we probably want to stick to just talking about strategy and save this for later, but just something to keep in the back of your head that might be viable.
Last kind of big robot construction question to me is drivetrain. I think you mentioned pneumatics. We probably don't want to do that.
I don't want to get deep in pneumatics.
Deep in pneumatics.
If we want shifters,
we have shifting gearboxes on drivetrain right now.
I mean,
we use pneumatics.
So that amount of pneumatics is good, but we don't want to go further.
the shifters are just tiny little like pancake cylinders. They're not massive, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, we could charge up one tank and be good for a match with the shifting.
So I mean, the shifting might be useful. Like if we're running around trying to get balls, it might be useful to shift into a different gear to go do that. But
The shifting might be useful. I'm getting the feeling that this game might be more kind of a short sprints than long
But I
distances.
mean, like with the shifting, like I think that would be pretty viable because in a match you have like potentially defense being played on you, but you might also want to sprint and go get balls really fast. So being able to switch between having torque to be able to push someone out of the way and being able to run and grab balls might be something.
Well, actually, that's probably a good idea to think about, considering both teams can kind of interact with either side of the field.
Yeah, so definitely something that.
And there is a 5-second contact rule this year, so we definitely want to think about dealing with other robots.
Yes, defense is definitely going to be a factor.
So I think having maybe like a 6-wheel high-powered drivetrain might be good
like,
to deal with other robots.
Like I'd say just
go high grip.
I don't know. I still think keeping one set, like doing like a flat with like the 2-wheel and the Omni, like what's maybe on there now, because the Omni definitely helps with turning, which might be important. Like if we're doing these kind of maneuvers, having that Omni there is critical to being able to do that.
Right.
Especially like in auto. If we're trying to deliver anything during auto, we don't want any sort of scrubbing because that'll mess it up. So definitely keep at least 4 grip wheels on there. I'd say probably not like a 4+2 or like an H drive. Probably not be viable for this.
Yeah, I feel like an all Omni would just get pushed around.
Definitely.
And Mechanos and are heavier, but they still get pushed around. I feel honestly actually the same for Swerve. Like it'd be hard to make sure you're facing in the right direction to resist at all points.
I mean, I don't think we're going to be doing Swerve.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying, like in general.
Yeah, I'd say probably just the tried and true would probably just be fine.
Just the Omni to help turn and the. So 2 on each side or 3 on each side?
I'd say 3, just because that's what the Andymark chassis I think defaults to, and also it would
It's
give us
got
some more grip.
Better grip, yeah.
So like something like.
And that's what we have built already.
So there you go. No new construction.
Are we using a pre-built chassis or a custom chassis?
Pre-built.
Pre-built, okay.
So just
It's
something
one of
like
the Andymark stock chassis that we've cut to the size we wanted last year.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the configuration.
Yeah, something like this.
That was like cut 2
years ago, yeah.
What about like 2 plaction wheels in the middle and then the Omni wheels on the side to help it turn, something like that?
So like,
would you want just Omni wheels on just one side or have it like on front and back?
I'd say one side, just because
just one.
grip from these is important, and also just having one helps enough with turning that having 2 isn't really as important. Because you can turn on 4 wheels easier than you can on 6.
Yeah.
But the issue with 6 is you have your wheel ends up sliding. So
yeah, you get diminishing returns if you do this. Yeah, you might turn a little better, but turning on 4 wheels is good enough compared to 6.
Sure.
And you'll maintain some of that grip that you get from traction.
Yep. Yeah. And covering drivetrain, and we want to shift it. How many motors are we going to put on it?
Probably just.
I mean,
what
it seems
the
like we're
gearboxes
getting
are?
low
I think we have
enough.
6 Neos in the drivetrain right now.
6 Neo, that's a lot.
I
feel
think
like-
that's what's on there.
Okay, the thing is though, I feel like 6 motors on the drivetrain would work though, because we're not drawing a lot of power for the other mechanism.
Yeah, it's just like at that point, like, do you really need shifting? Because
Yeah.
that's already a
It
crazy
might,
amount.
it might be 4.
Okay.
If it's four seems more like a reasonable number. I feel like 4 with shifting would be kind
If
of
I-
the sweet spot.
I'm kind of, if I remember correctly, I think there are 6 bolted on, but 2 of them aren't hooked up or something.
Yeah, so we could like those elsewhere
Yeah.
to keep them like that. I think just 4 is fine for this.
But I mean,
Especially
if we
for
have the
shifting.
spare motors.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be fun to plug in 6 and shift it just to see how much power that has, but I feel like just having 4, because also you wouldn't drain your battery as fast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're trying to climb with a winch, that might take some power at the end game that you might want to conserve until then, etc.
You could just have the 2 plugged in but not activated unless you
Yeah.
want to achieve like super power mode. I mean, that could be viable. Just have like the 2 to add to a push if you need it. And don't use them the rest of the time.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be drawing power that way. I mean, they'd be drawing a little bit, but you know, they wouldn't be running.
Can I bring up something else?
Mhm.
Obviously, you have everybody that's here today. Sunday, you're gonna have a couple more people than we do today, it looks like.
Okay.
Monday, before 6 p.m., you're gonna be averaging around 6 people here
In total.
in total. And those 6 people, it looks like, are changing a little bit. Some are consistent, some aren't.
There will be at least one person on build who's there the entire day.
I feel like as we approach sort of the end of the day, like, or like the end of the cycle, I feel like it would lean more towards like programming, like working on getting things actually up and running.
Yeah.
So we might not need as many people for that if that's the point we're at that time.
So
If you remember
let me
last
keep
year,
going, though.
we were building up until we started filming the release video.
Yeah. So
That's happened
that,
this year.
in an ideal scenario,
Yes.
programming would have time to do that. We might not.
Okay.
So after 6 p.m. on Monday, you're gonna have basically everybody-ish. And then what's very concerning is Tuesday morning from 9 to 10, you've got like 8. And then after that, you've got 2. So,
Actually,
trying to get done by 1
okay.
o'clock is going to be very difficult if you leave stuff on Tuesday morning.
I will say one thing when I put that in, I didn't realize that my class at noon doesn't meet
Okay.
the first week, so I can be there and I can help out with build.
One
if
of my
necessary.
2 classes in that period has gone virtual too, so.
I was pretty conservative with putting in my hours, so I may also be able to make some more of that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like last year when we didn't have classes going on, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That
Definitely
is
gonna be
an
fun.
obstacle on Monday and Tuesday.
Back to the
Okay.
robot.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else like big picture we're missing on the robot?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like we've got the scoring mechanism, general idea of how we want to climb, general idea of collection, general idea of drivetrain.
Like,
So, what?
I think we got our strategy pretty decently nailed down. I feel like that's
Yeah.
definitely attainable.
Yeah. Just kind of down to specific implementations now.
Does anyone disagree with the general strategy? Does anyone have anything else to add?
Sounds like no.
All right.
I am gonna say one other thing. So I didn't expect y'all to be done brainstorming by now, when I made the schedule. So.
Well, there's also more specifics we could
Yeah,
talk.
we need to nail down some dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to start, I want to get at least me and maybe some other people working on some tear down and some basic mechanical stuff.
Okay, so
And then the
what I-
rest, there's some actual design work that needs to happen to nail down mechanisms before.
I
we
think
can
a lot of
go.
that probably also involves measuring our existing chassis
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So now is probably a good time to move spaces.
I agree. I have it on here that some people are gonna go start working on
Yep.
actual physical things on the robot, and other people are gonna keep talking.
I know
Okay.
programming, we have some stuff that needs to get set up, like we need to re-image the Rio and stuff. I don't know if we also want to try
I have a
working on
brand new
that.
Rio for you.
Yeah, so that's probably gonna need to take a new image. We're probably gonna need basic electrical systems for that too.
Everyone who hasn't done their team bio recording yet, I also need to do like as soon as possible. So.
Oh yeah.
They only take like 2 minutes.
I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
they are fast.
Well, hey, before everyone packs up, we need to make sure the garage is like actually done. So why don't you keep talking and I'll run over there to see if the space is open.
Okay.
Before, because like we might as well keep this conversation rolling until we know we've got access over there.
Alright.
Yeah, so I feel like things that'd be useful to know implementation-wise from the programming perspective. In general, like for climbing, do we intend for that to be a pretty much just like one motor mechanical system on either side? Do we intend to, or like, you know, multi-motor combined?
I mean, it's
Point
not-
is, are we just driving a winch or are we doing something else?
I mean,
I think a winch would be the simplest solution.
yeah, generally with the climber, it's usually just one or two motors. I mean, the difference between that is pretty trivial.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it's
just
not
gotta
different in
follow.
code. I was just wondering, like, if
I
we
don't
need to
know.
write anything new for that.
I'd say just you might need some sort of gearbox on that winch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
we
mean-
definitely need a gearbox on the winch.
I mean, actually, so like,
Do we have the facilities to make like custom gearboxes?
I don't think so.
Like, do we have access to a CNC we can use and stuff?
Except if it's plastic.
Technically, I don't know if anyone's authorized to use
If you're feeling really confident, you can 3D print gears. I've seen it done.
Not for small gears though, and that.
Oh, not for
gears
small
hold
ones,
120
no.
pounds.
I'm pretty sure someone did a robot 2 years ago where it did actually climb off printed gears. Yeah. Point is, yeah. I mean, gear-wise, I feel like for climbing, that's probably just crank it to the highest ratio we've got.
I know, like, my team in 2017, we used like an Andy Mark drive gearbox for a climber, just put 2 sims in it, and it worked beautiful. So.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No, the
Like
Sims
if
can
we've got
definitely do
like
it.
if we've got the gearboxes from like the KOP, like those would probably work for some sort of winch like
Hey,
that.
quick interruption. Does anyone want any more food before we take it away? This is the last call for seconds.
Sure.
I'll take a sandwich.
Is it gonna be over at the garage?
Yeah.
I have one other thing. How are we gonna get a giant tennis ball?
It's the same size as a basketball.
Is it like a volleyball or?
How many are in the KOP? Because if there's multiple,
Yeah,
I might be able to steal one.
It's 9.5 inches.
Yeah, I say if there are 2 or 3 indicator parts, then we ask 2 or 3 local teams.
Yeah.
Who can
To
send more in
blend
3
it to
days.
us.
Like I think 435 did last time. I don't know what the status on that is. If they're willing to do that again. Or...
Yeah.
Mhm.
We can ask this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel with the right gears, you can run any motors. There was one year I ran a winch mechanism off 775s, so.
Yeah, that.
It worked.
If you want to do this sandwich, pass it out.
You just need a really high reduction. And it climbed fast.
Alright, you want sandwiches?
Yeah, give me a sandwich. What do you want? Whatever's on top.
Are they gonna be going to the e-garage?
Oh, okay.
I think these two look like veggies.
I don't wanna give you a lettuce sandwich.
Oh yeah, lettuce!
Let's see. Whatever. Yeah. It's too difficult to figure out what's where.
Is that it, everyone?
Anything else?
Last call.
Combine them all into one tray if we can't fit into the garage fridge.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because they were taking them to Anna's fridge.
I put them in the garage fridge.
Oh, another strategic discussion. Autonomous.
I don't think.
Drive forward and score?
I don't know if we have time.
At least get past like the. Can we get a working robot before we decide on autonomous?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's something we can do before we even have a robot, like a
Yeah.
basic one. Like if we want to do like a drive forwards and dump 2 balls, that's pretty easy.
That routine is device
I think
independent.
probably like any sort of like trajectory stuff, probably don't want to go
Now,
into
I
that.
feel
route.
like we're safe with just driving forward, scoring, and maybe driving back so we have some movement space.
Yeah. Like we have to look through like what the auto like points are and different lines and everything.
Yeah.
That'd be something probably for programming team to look at later.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, like, since we're not actually competing, it's not super critical that we have it. Like, I'd say given, if we don't have, if we could do auto or something else, I would say something else, like 99% of the time.
What's your, whether,
like if it comes down to auto versus something mechanical, I would say something mechanical because we don't really care about auto if we're not competing. It'd be nice to have, but we don't need it.
we don't even really have a proper field to test on.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't we have to drop outside?
That's another thing to be aware of, is we don't have the classroom space in the garage to test it. So our options are potentially this room if it's vacant. Or
Moving that's going to be a pain.
yes.
Otherwise.
Maybe for like if we're doing any video stuff.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Move it over here once to film, but
Programming wise, I do want to ask you a quick thing before you go off to image.
Sure.
But let's keep discussing the robot for now. Okay. Other things with the robot. We want to talk about the specifics of the collection mechanism. I do like the kind of hole in the middle with belts idea.
Yeah, I feel like with this kind of game piece, I don't know. Like, I feel like the squishy ones from 2020, I think an over the bumper would work better. For these, depending on how rigid they are, I feel like letting them just go through the bumper, given that that gap is wide enough that they can get in comfortably.
are there any bumps in the field?
I would say maybe like on the climbing zone.
The field seems
Because in the past they
pretty
have
flat.
actually had raised surfaces.
There might be.
There is like one, and it's the actual.
Let me see if I can get like the field overall.
The what?
The power supply thing. for the game.
Okay, so the one point that maybe bumps is the tarmac.
I think there's also a bump, because they set the balls out around in a circle, and they called it a ring or something.
Okay, so the tarmac around the scoring area is just tape.
Yeah, okay.
And looking at the overall picture.
It looks
one
like there's
sec.
colored lines and there's also a white line. I don't know.
So the colored lines they have around the
My
center
guess-
there are tape.
I'm guessing there is some sort of a bump for them to get cables into the center part. It looks like on this diagram, the bottom half has a white line inside a black line. The top half is just a white line. So I think the bottom half might be a bump. So there might be a bump on like half of it. I don't think it's like a big like metal bump. I think it's probably just a cable bump sort of.
Cursory looking at it, if I remember correctly, the only actual bump they had was the power supply to the center element.
Yeah. Beyond that, the field looks pretty darn
It's
flat.
a pretty barren field.
Like,
Because it's just a center structure and the two corner structures.
You know, I bet part of why the game is so simple is because they had to figure out how to manufacture a whole bunch of field with 1 year
Current
notice
supply
instead of
chain.
4 year notice.
And also just because a lot of teams probably aren't able to do as
Well,
much with
it's
COVID.
they probably, because of last year, no game last season, it's probably 2 year
Well,
notice.
they typically have a 4 year development cycle.
Yeah,
for
I'm
games.
saying 2 years instead of 1 year, because they probably developed it starting in 2020.
Potentially, yeah.
Because they're like, we didn't do this season, we can just repeat it and figure out 2 years down.
Is that the cap for last year's robot?
Yeah, the stream.
Yeah, this is from last year.
Can we watch that
Uh,
now?
If the computer can handle it.
is there anything else anyone wants to discuss regarding the robot? Guess not.
Anything else to discuss regarding the robot?
Well, from the quick picture of the chassis there, it seems like,
Yeah, you can't handle
The
it.
stream's having bad glare.
Oh yeah, it's from the projector. Because the projector's shining at the camera. Seems better now.
Yeah, it was when it was all white. But yeah, it can't watch the Discord stream.
chassis wise, it does look like we just stripped the stuff that's on top and we cut a hole, and the chassis is pretty
We
much
need to look
set.
at bumper rules to make sure we cut that hole.
Bumper rules looks like it's
Yeah,
still
I
just
did.
corner.
If I recall, it has to be 6 inches from the corner.
Let me see what the bumper rules one
So
time.
our width has to be enough for field elements plus that 6 inches. The other thing, I actually do have a small issue with going through chassis. It restricts our collection zone to a smaller area.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we wouldn't be able to have like
Unless we have some sort of drop down.
Yeah, so what I've seen, a lot of the through chassis, they have a thing that drops down and it's got some sort of wheels on it that it's designed to guide the ball to the center.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
like
we
you can
don't-
hit it and then they go up against the bumper and are just brought to the middle.
We don't have mechanism wheels to do that with.
I've seen them be 3D printed, I don't
You
know.
can 3D print them if you have nails to connect it all together, but.
Nails are easy.
Our team experimented with that, but it was kind of finicky.
Yeah, my team also worked with that. The problem is those 3D printed wheels kind of bind easily.
Yeah, I have video of one exploding, so.
Like, I guess if you cover them in oil, it might work.
We can do that.
What about
That
modified?
probably runs afoul of rules. What are you gonna say?
What about a modified 2019 EveryBot? Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I'm
Like where it's got like the
No,
scoop with the.
No, just it's probably best if you.
Yeah, I don't know what the
I think
everybody
I
is that
remember
year.
it.
The 2019 one, probably just look it up.
2019 bumper spot.
That's
Oh,
the EveryBot thing where it's just an intake that's like around two.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at, I think, something like that.
It's just like two surgical tubing conveyors and one on top, one on bottom.
Yeah.
Alright, by the way, here's the bumper rules for this year. So all corners must be protected. And, let's see. At least 6 inches must be placed on each side of each outside corner.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but the ball, according to the manual, the ball is only like 9 3/4. So we should, or 9.5. So 9.5 plus 12 gives us enough. So we should be good.
Yeah, we still have to solve the issue of that reducing our intake.
Yeah, that's the big issue.
Is 9.5 diameter?
It better be diameter. If that's the radius, we're screwed.
I don't think it's rated.
It's the same size as a basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
someone,
9.5 diameter. So
maybe they measured the perimeter.
Oh my God. It's a
circumference.
It's a perimeter.
It's
You
the
mean the
perimeter of a cross section.
No, they measured the surface area.
The surface area.
9.5 square meters.
What am I getting my volume measurement? Alright,
Decimeters, I think.
Not meters.
okay.
They're big.
So we want to do, no cutout, but like swing out feed mechanism helping them.
Definitely the swing out, I think. Like,
Something needs to swing
the
out.
concept of touch it, own it should be maintained.
Yeah, so just like dedicate servo each to whatever mechanism to swing it at the beginning.
So through bumper or over bumper?
I don't know. That might be more a question for the mechanical team. So I'm not sure.
I think through.
Through means we have to figure out where to locate electronics.
I mean,
Well, if we
could,
just do
like,
a ramp, we can just fit it underneath the ramp.
If we do something like that U shape that I drew, you could have like 2 panels on the side and mount them on those panels.
Let's.
Wait, okay, question on the U shape. Pick them up from the ground on the U shape. How do we get them up?
Like, I was just thinking they could run along the ground. Like, there's that belt that would be kind of lifted, where you could have them, the belt, when the belt runs, it could pull them, they would just kind of roll along the ground, and then they'd be lifted up at the very end of that belt somehow. Like, with some sort of other.
I don't want to lose the entire base of the robot.
Yeah, that's
like
the
that.
thing, because then it'd kind of be floppy, where you'd have a U-shaped robot that could kind of.
I don't know, in terms
Hey.
of like, oh, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin?
Yes.
What's the width between the motors in the cab?
Oh, in the CAD, 1 second maybe.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, that's the other thing, that you'd have to fit it through the motors. So.
While he does that, I think in terms of like both stability of the robot, simplicity, just having a ramp that feeds in,
Yeah.
feeds out from opposite ends.
It's just the
going to
issue
be the
is
easiest.
with holding 2 balls on that, because you'd have to have some way of segmenting it where you could pick up one. Like, you'd have to break.
Well, and that's what we have on the robot now from last
Yeah.
year.
Mhm.
There's a wheel at the end, a compliant wheel. And so you can run the surgical tubing until the ball hits that, but it won't actually go through until that wheel is spinning.
Yeah.
I feel like that works well.
So, sorry to cut in, but based on the CAD, the distance between the gearboxes is like 5.5 inches, roughly.
So we need to
We
get
would
balls
definitely-
up above that.
In that case, over the bumper would probably make more sense because
Yeah.
that would already give it some elevation.
So
Yeah.
we field ramp over the bumper then?
Yeah, I think over bumper is what we need to do.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, you could. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that's more a question for mechanical.
Well, they're not very vocal right now.
You're the only one, aren't you the only one?
I'm mostly here.
Or design potentially.
I'm just trying to figure out how we're doing this in 3 days.
I'd say just.
Same way we always have.
I'd say
Lots
just
of panic.
like, pick which intake mechanism works based on what fits, sort of. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think over the bumper would probably be better, strategically, because you'd be able to pick up. You'd have a wider area to be able to grab balls. And you wouldn't have to like micro maneuver to get it through the hole in the bumper or anything like that. Because especially because we don't have any mechanisms that we could use to like center them up or anything.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to figure out how to get them over the bumper and then get them centered once they're up, and keep them contained, because we don't want a repeat of like the intake in 2021 where they kind of just go everywhere.
Yeah. I also want to throw out there, just kind of sitting on the strategic idea of there being a lot of robots around this center space that might collide. It might be a good idea to plan that, you know, whatever we drop out of the robot at the beginning can be retracted at any point.
Yeah, so that was a thing that my team in 2020, we had something that would deploy like that. And an issue with it was that it would constantly be going into other teams' frame perimeters, which would be like penalties. And so we definitely want something we can pull off when we're maneuvering around to avoid that.
As long as we have the time, there's a certain simplicity in just gravity drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we could manage to dedicate like a servo to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if a servo would.
Well, not
servo's not got the swing.
Well, if we could dedicate a motor to it, small one
What
probably.
about like a pneumatic piston to do it? For the
Piston?
I don't know what pneumatics we have on hand.
Wait, are you for the drop down of the?
For drop down.
Couldn't you just use the movement of the robot? You back up the acceleration, so you will make it angled, so when you move, it drops
We're talking
down.
about
Well, we want to be able to bring it back in mid-round and like kind of switch it up so we don't collide.
How important is that?
Not, like, I think on the actual play of field, I would say yes. For us, probably not.
You could just do a motor and a string and a pulley, or you just pull, just raise.
Slow though. That doesn't help.
Yeah, I would say we don't need to worry about it. I'd say on an actual field, yes, you need to worry about it. We don't have to deal with penalties. We don't have to deal with other robots. Just let it fall.
So one thing we need to consider when we're not doing the bumper cutout is how the ball will interact with the bumper material.
Yeah.
We need to get hands on a ball in the next few hours, I think, and test that.
Yeah, because especially since it's like a tennis ball sort of thing, those little like ivers might screw stuff up, but we can't tell for sure. So.
The other thing right now is our bumpers don't have fabric. We've just zip tied full needles to plywood and stuck that on the perimeter.
Yeah.
So I think with the drop down, like maybe we just go for whatever works. And once again, if we have time thing, we see if we have a spare pneumatic or something we can attach to it.
Yeah.
A rotational pneumatic would be ideal, but you know, whatever.
Don't have.
Okay.
I can guarantee you we don't have anything but linear.
A linear pneumatic we put on a like single bolt attachment so it can rotate.
Yeah.
That would work too. On that FRC teams, be creative with what you have.
Yep.
These things take like minimum 2 weeks to ship. Yeah.
A week and a half or 2 weeks ago, Animar actually did give us 2-day shipping. Like their regular shipping option is 2-day shipping. Yeah.
Are they okay?
What?
Are they okay?
No,
Is Andy Mark okay, or the parts that we
Andy Mark.
Well, keep in mind that's their low time in a year, and it,
Well, 2 weeks before build season is their low time?
once compared, but not in build season.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind that's over the holidays.
Yeah.
It's low.
Yeah. So, climbing wise, I mean, climbing mechanism's going to be pretty similar to previous bar climbing years, right?
Yeah.
Which is?
Well, actually, I'd like to, some form of telescoping.
Yeah.
We could potentially reuse, well, no, maybe we can't reuse the hook if we want to be able to go up another rung. But,
We can reuse the hook for the purposes of aiming for one rung.
yeah. Our hook right now, the way it's designed is it has angled surfaces, so that as it's pushed up over the bar, it opens up and then clips around the bar.
We could just make it open hook though, couldn't we?
Yeah.
I feel like you might as well go open hook.
Yeah, I would say if we were doing the second bar, I'd say probably the best way of doing that would be grab the first one, grab the second one, and then let go of the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Just don't even bother with anything other than that. Just kind of dangle like that. Open hook would probably be fine, because then you could just re-extend it, and it would kind of dislodge itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think just focus on getting that one hook down first.
Yeah.
Like, make sure it's like working, has like everything with it is good, because if we can't get to the first bar, we can't get to the second bar. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Agreed.
Okay. Anything else?
So we're gonna do over bumper collection. How are we funneling?
That is the challenge.
Do we just need like a tube on the front edge of the robot that runs all the balls to one side?
That could
Are we,
work.
are we doing the over bumper because our
You could have the conveyor on one side and like the climbing stuff on the other. Like you could have like an L shape.
Because what if these
Yeah.
balls don't work well with over bumper?
We should definitely have a contingency for that. But
Well, I will say these balls definitely won't compress against the bumper or anything.
the thing is,
The bumper can compress and our
Against the
intake
balls.
mechanism can compress.
the thing is, we can cut a hole in the bumper at a later date, but we can't put it back together once we've done that. So I'd say,
Yeah.
say over bumper. If over bumper doesn't work, then we can start cutting.
What we really need is to get hands on a ball.
Yeah.
I texted someone from our robotics team to see if they'll
Awesome.
doing this.
It's just I don't know how many are in the KOP. You might be able to find that on the inventory list.
It's
but-
just one.
It's just one?
No, I said if it's just one,
If
we're
it's
in
just
trouble.
one, no one will probably give us one.
Yeah.
I feel like if
Hopefully they provide
Is there
three.
any way we could just substitute it with like?
I don't know, like maybe
Yeah,
if you go to
that's
like a sports store or something, they might have something like that. But
Let me
Okay, because, yeah,
try
it-
and find the product.
Yeah, it is the same size as
yeah, you might be able to find the part number. See if like
Yeah, I'm looking up
They're
that.
gonna give you two because, at least, because that's the total capacity you can handle.
Not necessarily.
It's like back to the discussion of like the intake, like something like where you have like a roller here, have something that like funnels them like
Yeah.
that.
I
you
agree.
you have like all this space for like climber stuff.
Yeah.
And electronics.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Then you probably want something like some sort of piece of plexi or something to like arc over.
Yeah.
Make sure everything stays contained.
Yep.
Is this for holding the ball?
Like guiding them into the system. Like going from the intake into the conveyor or whatever system.
And then I would say the
Oh, wait. Do you guys have a camera angle that shows the whiteboard?
Not anymore.
Ah, unfortunate. Okay.
Now we do.
Oh, sweet.
Trying to find. I found balls
Thanks.
with similar dimensions on Amazon, but that doesn't really help us.
Well,
Size
it'll be here in time to film a release video at least.
Yeah.
And like, compressing.
Are we filming it again?
You can't do that to a basketball.
Like, I mean, I could, like, if we can't get one today, like, I could run to the store, like, later tonight, because I have my car here. And, like, I could go look at, like, Target and Walmart
Yeah, I'm
and see
trying
if they
to
have anything
find.
comparable.
I feel like I feel like the problem here is they
I
might
don't
have
know.
used a custom design.
The problem is, I don't know, like, we don't have time to ship them. They need to be,
Yeah.
like, in a store nearby.
Well, but I would check stores nearby online.
Yeah.
Because their inventory should be
And
online.
ideally, we'd get one from a team, but
Yeah. Does one of you have the inventory list? Can we check that?
Okay, here's a 9.5 oversize.
A 9.5-inch tennis ball?
Yep.
Ooh.
I'm going to see if I can find this on somewhere that's not Amazon. I don't know why it's in Amazon fashion, honestly.
like, if we could find something close enough, we could just retool our design to fit that ball instead of the official one, but
Yeah.
ideally, we'd have it match the correct dimensions, but.
The dimensions I care the most about, yeah.
Like, I mean, if, like.
I mean, I'd be, worst case, we can use like a basketball.
I don't know, that might be too big, but like if we can find one of those same, like the same kind of material at least.
Yeah.
Is it in Walmart?
Wait, you said you found it
It's
in
not
Amazon?
in the store, it's shipped by someone.
Not the exact same thing, but.
Yeah, like the really big tennis ball.
Yeah, that is by Tuesday, January 25th. That's 25th. Yeah, the 25th.
What is it?
What?
We found it in Walmart. But
Oh, you did?
But like, it's like shipped, it takes, they don't have it in store.
Okay.
And it comes in on the 25th, so.
Ah.
Not really.
One brand that apparently sells them is Lixada.
Who?
But LIXADA.
Oh, okay.
But it seems like they might be online only.
Yeah.
Let's switch search engines.
Are they on Amazon?
Oh yeah, they're on Amazon.
Was the dealership in
Is it 9 or 9.5 inch?
9.5. Oh, I see the Walmart thing that. Well, Walmart says in stock. It's just out of stock near us.
Fastest way ever.
How far away do we have to go?
1 sec.
Yeah.
Oh, it's from an international seller.
Because if they're in stock 30 miles from
It's the
here,
same
that might
seller.
work, but-
Huh. Okay, Wilson, what do you got for us?
Fastest delivery on Monday, January 10th.
Monday.
Yeah. There's one from Amazon, the fastest delivery is by Monday.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's a 9. I need 9.
That is true.
Well, but it'd be in time to film on Tuesday.
It's just the thing is, we'd want them in time to be able to tune that intake, to
Yeah.
make sure it actually works. So you can only do so much of that in CAD, until you know how the materials interact.
Yeah, CAD is essentially limited to just dimensions, but when it comes to fine stuff like tolerancing and like compression of materials, it's not the best.
Yep.
We got one from Alibaba.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we'll wait 2 months.
You get the wrong product.
We'll be ready for next year.
Yeah, when they repeat this game again.
Does anyone know how many they have on the kit of parts?
Check the list.
First KOP. Kickoff kits. That's probably an everyone tote. It looks like they got 1 red and 1 blue.
Okay. That might
So
be
we
fine.
can potentially get one from somewhere. Because unless they're trying to do color stuff like day 1.
I don't think so. I think
I
that
think
people
we'd
will
be
be
quite
doing
okay.
checking, like,
I don't see a size for these.
I don't see any reason why people would want 2 day 1.
Alright, the supplier's flag house. Let's see if they saw anything in a Home Depot or anything.
I'm finding 9, but not 9.5.
I found 9.5
It's a ball.
on Amazon.
The problem is we don't have time for that.
Yeah, that's the only problem with
Look at
that.
this one, right?
Like, I would look at like sporting goods stores maybe.
Yeah,
They might
that's
have
Actually, a lot of.
I found like
Yeah,
9
Yeah, I
from
think like
there.
a PetSmart's a better option.
Yeah,
because
I'm looking on PetSmart. I found, I don't know what size this is though.
Dollar
like,
Tree
nobody
has covered.
thinks
Store, but I
that
don't know
one
what
of the
size
big
it is.
balls, the
It
dog.
says extra small.
Like, I mean, 9 would be okay if that's the best we could do.
Yeah, we can make 9 work.
Because like a half
But
inch
I'm
is
not
good.
sure if it's in store.
Should say.
Let's see.
I'm on Petco.
Oh, Petco.
Search pets more.
Yeah, we got Flaghouse here about us. Please tell me you're stocking like actual physical stores. Okay.
Well, that's what,
Do you think we could like contact first NC and like ask them for?
I don't know if they have any extras at this point.
I mean, not.
Well, it's
even
probably
really
worth an
games
ask
yet?
though.
are we ready to move?
I feel like they don't get the field until later though.
Really?
Like I think it takes some time to make all of them, get them shipped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, y'all, it is time to go to the garage. So, I think we're just gonna send everybody. Joe, is it alright if we just kind of stop the stream while we all move over there and you get set up again in a few minutes?
Yeah, I can stop it.
Maybe just put up like a little banner or something.
Well, it needs a computer to stream from, so, just have to.
Moving Wi-Fi is doesn't
Quit it.
Yeah, so, pick up all your trash, make sure you have all your belongings and everything. I don't know how many of y'all have cars and don't have cars, so if y'all wanna all walk over there together, that's cool. If you wanna figure out a way to ride over there.
What's the parking situation like over there?
It's the weekend right now, so parking is open.
Okay.
That will change on Monday and Tuesday.
That will.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, there'll be like more buses and stuff.
So, make sure you got everything, we're gonna head over there.
Do you have a car?
Sammy and I are gonna.
You wanna ride with me?
And reset the room.
Okay. Just so you can get over there quick and start it back up.
Yeah, that should be everything. If you don't know where it's at, like walk in the group or something.
Colin, do you have a thought? I have a thought.
Possibly, but you guys, yeah, we're putting my back seat up and we can.